Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Aspiring Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Hamza Chowdhury, and welcome to today's daily stock recap. It's an early recap. I actually have a lot of meetings today, and I wanted to get this out for you guys. Got a lot of good information, a lot of good setups, A+ setups. I'm going to share with you in this video, so you'll definitely want to stay tuned. It's going to be a little bit longer video because I am going to go in detail some of my day trading tips. It's probably about 9:30. We're about 3 hours in the session, and so it is Wednesday, April 28th, guys. And as always, I appreciate you guys. If you do enjoy this video, if you did learn something from this video, guys, feel free to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. As always, guys, we're a 100% free content channel. We basically depend on your support to grow this channel and spread the word. As always, guys, I appreciate you. So Spy, again, we've talked about this top, and it continues to want to sort of, go through. And you can see all these doji candles that we see at the top here around 417, 418. And so, Apple reports earnings today. And so you can tell we talked about yesterday, right, that the Spy and Apple are, Apple's a big part of the Spy. And so clearly, and we'll talk about Apple shortly, is there's definitely a top here and there's some strong resistance. And so guys, remember we talked about the short-term risk would be here to the 20-day around 411. And I mentioned that the ultimate buy, if you're looking for a new long position, not necessarily adding to a position, the new long position, I would be waiting until we get to about 398, 400. And you can see here we had some tops here. Okay, so previous tops will act as support. And so 397, 398, which is kind of where around the 50-day. Okay, and so that's what I would do. And that thesis hasn't changed. So Apple, reports earnings after hours. And so what are people doing? They're taking out profits. And that's what I've been saying all along. Guys, we've had this 135 top. There's no reason, you could have, even if you were, long-term biased every day on Apple, you could still sell the 135 and you could have bought the dip at 131. And so, reports after hours, guys. And what are we seeing? I mean, look at AMD today. And we'll get through AMD. We will be talking about AMD as well and some other plays. And so we will be covering a handful of tickers today. So I'll try to get through these quick. So same idea, guys. I expect that we'll retrace back in here. Possible risk to the 200-day, depending on the earnings and the quality of the earnings. But this would be what I would be risking, is down to the 121. Again, no reason not to take profit. If Apple goes, you can always keep a quarter of your shares. And so watch that aftermarket today. Did not trade Apple. Tesla, we said it yesterday, guys. We called it. We basically said that 695. And what was interesting about today, guys, that I noticed was look at the chart. We have our 20-day that's uptrending. We have our 50-day that's flattening out. And so yesterday we talked about our solid 695. 694 is the bottom right now as of the recording of this for Tesla. But when I saw the setup, I was like, this is going to be an interesting setup. Look at that. What's providing resistance? The 20-day. So what this translates to is short term, you could argue you're bearish on Tesla. Long term, you could still say, obviously, we're bullish on Tesla. But I want to just be clear for you guys who've been following this channel, is that, remember, we have this sort of higher low thesis, right? And so we've had this. We had a failure to succeed. We had a failure to fail. And then we broke through that, what we called was the sort of top at 710, 715. And we made a new high, okay? And so in theory, this would be the higher low that we have here at the 695. This whole thesis of us uptrending in Tesla, in theory, would go out the door if we break this level right here. Excuse me, my chicken scratch here. 680, right? And I've said that in previous videos. So if you break 680 and let's say you get down back to here, that whole uptrending thesis is out the door. Okay, and I mentioned to you 805 or so was my short-term price target. We mentioned 775 previous on the channel. We hit that on this day, and now I'm looking for the next uptick. I'm looking for 805, which is why you see that green line. Okay, and so that's Tesla. Again, didn't do any trades on Tesla, but obviously watching the price action. Palantir, we mentioned this, several days back here, is right, the 50-day. It's going to find the 50-day and it's going to act as resistance. But in this case, right, it hit this during the double click day, failed. Look, we tested it twice. Okay, and so this is just overall weakness in the markets today in general. And so I think that now that we have sort of a triple top here, we're ready to break out a 50-day. And so I would almost argue that we're starting to make, right, an uptrend on the stock. And again, my play, guys, is May 11th. Palantir announced they are doing their earnings, and so I'm bullish on the stock long term. And again, price target is going to be right here, not $30.50, but a little bit higher. It's going to be around 31.50 is what I'm raising that to. okay? And so 3150, this gap fill on the daily is what I'm looking for Palantir as a price target, near-term price target, not a long-term price target, near-term. That's what I'm looking for, okay? Clearly a base here at 21, clearly a top here at 24, and then we had a top here at 2750 on the last high, okay? And so let's see what this can do. We still have about 2 weeks, full trading weeks before the earnings reports, and let's see if we can get profitability in Palantir. That's all we need is profitability, and we should be fine. Spce has been one of the stronger stocks. Same thing, guys. We had this double bottom. We called that the near-term price target would be 26. You can see that the 200-day is trading around 27, and same idea, guys. Is we're definitely holding up the the higher highs now. And so here, the higher was at around 24, which was obviously, previous resistance, and it's still acting as resistance. And so the idea is that we consolidate in this level, and then we break out of it. Clearly, you can see there's a fill here around 26. And so, like I mentioned, between 26 and 27, near-term price target for Spce. And then, of course, sort of a longer-term price target is 28. The reason why I have this green line drawn is you can see that's the level that we broke when we started downtrending here. And so that's the level I want to see get retested, which is what was previous support around 2780. Okay. And so this is probably, a few weeks out, but closer term, obviously we can see the 26, 27, pretty shortly. We just need to get some volume in. Fcel, I mentioned to you guys in the last video, pretty much hit our price target here. I think it was like off by like 15 cents. Still believe in it around $11, and so still expecting it to test a 20-day. And so it's just a minor retracement, and then of course we'll push back. So we should see at least $11, possibly as high as $11.25. So expect short-term 20-day resistance, just because of the fact that this is a bearish stock. Plug, same thing, guys. We talked about $30. I believe we got close to 30. We got 40 cents within 30 yesterday. Same thing, minor pullback, and expect a push. And you can see here that the 200-day is acting as resistance, but I really think that clearly it's a steal for Plug Power. And so I definitely still see 30 as a near-term price target for Plug Power. AI, guys, is exciting. I definitely enjoy seeing AI always on the day trading chart to kind of see what it's doing. So you guys can see that $73 that we identified as a strong resistance continues to act as a strong resistance. And so that's going to be the case for AI. But you can see here on the daily that it just looks super strong, guys. We're trading over the 20-day, and we may end up seeing a bounce off of it before we can validate. But you can see here that I'm looking for a near-term price target. It's going to be around 82.65. And so it looks strong. The 50 days up here at 82. And so I definitely expect, now that we're uptrending, that we're going to start seeing this flatten out, and that will definitely be acting as resistance. And so uptrending to the 50-day will be the near-term price target. Like I expected, it's around 82.65. That's what I'm expecting. Okay. So some of the short setups that I want to talk about today that specifically that came up, and I've realized today, and I've realized for a long time, obviously, but today specifically, that, right, like, stay stocks that you're familiar with. Like, there may be stocks that you don't trade, but stay with stocks that you're familiar with. And AMD is a stock that I started trading a long time ago, but really started getting familiar with it right before this last earnings play. And so my biggest suggestion for you guys is, like, when it gapped up like it did, I was already short biased. Now most people say, well, why would you be short biased? You reported great earnings, yada yada. Just look at this chart. Where's the stock been going, and what has it been doing recently, right? And so if you think about it, from this low here at 75 up to 89.90 bucks, guys, it already accounted for good earnings. And so I came in short bias. I was also looking for a specific setup. And so if I come back here to my day trading chart, this is what I was looking for. Is I saw the consolidation, and so what I wanted to do was short clear top here around 89.25. I believe mine's was at 89.25. The problem is here is, look at the high, 89.20. And so I had a short with a entry here at the top here at the pre-market, leading into the market open at 89.25. Didn't get filled by 5 cents. And look what kind of play this could have been, right? So obviously here's the fast moving chart, the fast moving average, excuse me, and you can see it clearly just nosedived. And so what was kind of interesting about the stock, guys, is that you don't want to just jump into a stock just to jump into a stock. You don't want to just jump into a stock and not have a game plan, a risk plan. And so when I saw the daily on AMD, I was like, well, wait a minute, here's the 200-day. And so we're trading way above the 200-day. We're trading way above the 50 days down here too, guys, right around the 20. And so we're way out there. So guys, why would you buy at 89? Ask yourself, just take a moment. Why buy at 89? Why buy at 88? Why buy at 87? And so that was a complete flush. So I was short biased, but as we started to tank, right, obviously there are people who dip buy, and now I was one of them. And so my first trade was probably around here, I believe, around 86, and it was a pop of around 30-40 cents, and I was positive. And then I saw this monthly pivot here, and I really thought that it would hold, and it did hold for a little bit. I ended up getting out for positivity, and then here I ended up looking at what was the previous day's close, which was 85.20. And so I figured 85.25 would be a good entrance. And so 85.25 is where we closed yesterday. And so we obviously closed the gap from yesterday's low. And so you can see, guys, great earnings, got pumped up and completely lost all the gains it had between the pre-market and post-market, which is why I always guys tell you, please do not trade the pre-market and post-market unless you're willing to, or at least, small size, and unless your conviction rate is extremely high, guys. This is all manipulation, right? This is all shorts stacking up the positions, and now they're just cashing out. And as you can see, this thing is starting to base. And so it's an extremely weak stock, but I'm really proud of myself, and I will skip into Clover. And why? Why am I proud of myself? I actually took a loss on this last trade. Now, why would I have taken a loss when I could have easily swung? The reason why is I knew that there was more additional risk potentially to here to the 200-day short term for AMD. If you notice that the stock has not only started 89, it's trading at essentially the session's lows. And so basically you'd be losing potentially up, a couple bucks from 85.20 to 83.30. And so what I realized was, well, wait a minute, I'm a day trader. Day traders buy and sell and have, ideally 60, 40, 70, 30 percentage rate, win rate. And then what I saw was our friend Clover. Okay, guys, we called Clover to the T as well. Okay, short-term price target was 10.50, and we got 10.50 back here. Now I told you guys I ended up selling it closer to 10, right? But we ended up getting the 10.50 here, and now we got here. Now, why did I get involved? Take a moment and look at this chart, specifically this orange line, which represents the 200-day. When Clover was trading around 10.50, 10.60, what do you think I saw? I saw what? A potential trade back into the 200-day as an area of interest. Now, obviously, we know that there's squeezes. There's going to be, obviously, you got to check the level 2. You got to see a lot of different aspects of the trade and see a good setup. But the fact is, guys, I was willing to take a loss on AMD and not sit there in a losing trade, praying, hoping, waiting, whatever it is, the emotions that we feel when we're in a losing trade. When I saw sort of what I felt was like an A+ setup on a good short. And so with Clover, if I come back here on Clover, right, I started to see this movement. Now remember, the 200-day is closer to 11, right? So right around here, it's around $11. And so what you had here was this sort of pop, this dump, and then you can see it popped even higher. And so you could have added it to your short position, or, right, we talk about you could have waited to see where it would start to fail. And so clearly it started to top here. And then you can see right when it crossed this sort of consolidation level that, yeah, this thing is starting to look weak. Obviously, it also crossed the fast moving average. And so, guys, coming into this sort of price action, I actually closed a AMD position, turned it from a winner to a loser, got in heavy on Clover because my conviction rate was high. The fact that, again, we had an area of interest, the fact that we had this momentum, the stock is clearly broken out. And so what did I do? I shorted heavy and ended up being my biggest winner of the day. And so I have a solid green day, but it's not because I was sitting twiddling, again, letting those emotions take over me. Guys, I was willing to cut the stock, not let it work, realizing that I'm risking another dollar, so a potential $2 loser for maybe a $1 winner, not worth it. And then I jumped in a stock that I like, that you guys know for a month we covered the stock every single day. And so when you're familiar with the stock, like I mentioned earlier, your conviction rate goes up. And same thing with Clover, is my conviction rate was really high. We know the price action. We've been watching the stock since, I think, like way back here when it tanked, and then we talked about it all the way up to 1050 being our price target. And guys, we got more than that. And so what's interesting, again, as a day trader, could be long biased, which I was a week or two ago, and now I'm short biased because I see a certain setup that I like, okay, and I see a massive squeeze. And so it was a great stock, guys, great gain. And now you can see You know, we had some bounces here off the 1060, covered all my shares. And so I started shorting here at 11, added to my position right north of 11, and I just started covering. And that was another thing I did. Don't just cover once. Why cover all your shares? Let your trade work. When you see something starting to fail, why not just let it work at 5-cent levels, 10-cent levels, 25-cent levels, whatever you have. And in this case, guys, I had probably 4 or 5 exits, and I got to my point right here at 1065. Ended up getting as low as 1060. Can't bottom tick, can't top tick. It's not a big deal. And so, guys, it was a solid trade. Really liked it. And now you can see we're possibly getting back up to the 200-day as we're recording this video, which is now about 3.5 hours into the session. Real quick, I want to talk about pins. Same idea, guys. It was weak. It looked weak, and same thing as I saw it yesterday when it tanked, and I did sort of scalp short it. I did forget to mention that yesterday on the video. And then same thing, but it moves so fast. You know, I shorted for about $1 in the pre-market, which was awesome, and I was trying to get back in, and it moved so fast. I mean, you got to be quick sometimes. You got to have those entries in, live orders in, and I didn't. And so I missed it. But look at this. The high was 69.20, the low was 67. This is why, guys, if you have a full-time job and you're watching this video, this is why I love day trading. The first half an hour, the first hour is where all the action is, and now it's just simply fading off, right? But look at the move. You have 2 to 3 point swings in the first half an hour. You get done day trading, and then you just move on with your day. And so you see this sort of whipsaw action. And so we hit a low. I ended up going long. So I shorted. I ended up going long here down around like 67.80, and then it ended up coming back up all the way up to as high as 69. And then of course it just faded down. So what happened, right, is that it sold off. People sold their shares, panic sold probably, seeing this thing gone 10. The buyers came back in to push the stock up, and now the short sellers are simply just fading this the whole day. You can see it hasn't even retraced. And so for people who are trying to buy pins, guys, don't buy pins when this thing's clearly downtrending. This is just like MVIS yesterday. It's clearly downtrending. Also, we want to find it in an area of support, an area of interest. And so pins is all the way down here. The 200-day is all the way at 58, and we're at 66. And so looking at the setups and looking at what we've done is, look, we had the gap fill here at like 69, and now you can see potentially that's where we could potentially be heading is 58. Now again, I can see this thing retracing, but you know, clearly it's been fading since it got its high at 688. And so it's been, you know, I've been watching the stock, guys, since it was back here. I used to short it and buy it and sell it down here at 22. And so it's had a massive run up. I mean, a 400% run up, guys, in less than a year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got back to the 200-day. Okay. Last one I do want to cover. I was kind of annoyed at MVIS yesterday. I mentioned to you guys I took a loss. Same thing as I went long. I saw the stock beaten up. It had great consolidation yesterday, and I was like, yeah, there's a good floor here. And so I ended up going long. I took it for a small win, and then I got, I believe, long again here, somewhere along here. I must have scalped long, and then I took this hit, and when it went down to 19. And then so I got long again, let it come back up, sold it for like just, you know, 20. I was like at $20.25 is where I sold it. And then all of a sudden you see this sort of bump up. And you're like, okay, so this was the level, guys. Look at the volume, right? We always say the red line is the point of control where most of volume trades. And so look, it essentially kind of teased and came back there around the 22 level, but then, and that's where my initial entry was. And so I took the loss on it yesterday. Was my only losing trade. And then today, look what it did. And so the reason why I like the setup is that you have this squeeze on the upper band, okay? And then you have a complete retracement. And the reason why I like this is you have this bearish engulfing candle that gets people out. And so what they do is they squeeze everybody out who went long. They get everybody out of the trade. And when I saw that candle and considering how heavy it was, I realized that tomorrow we're most likely going to see this thing retrace back. And that's a setup that I've been watching and I personally like. And so you could say, well, why didn't you swing long? It's because, guys, in case that theory or that thesis didn't work, I don't want to bag hold MVIS, which is a meme stock, right? And so it may potentially come back down to $11. It's a garbage stock. It may be, you know, it's behind its competitors. Read about the technology that they have, right? And so, you know, same idea, guys, is I knew this would retrace. I didn't know to what extent. It clearly got up to $26. Looks like the high was $25.75, so it was an awesome play if you're able to swing that. But you can see here, what are they doing? They're squeezing out the longs, right? You've ran the stock up, you squeeze out the longs, profit taking, and then you run it right back up, okay? And so it's been a great setup. We saw that a lot, guys. If you go back to like Fcel and Plug, right, these days, where they would sell off, right, they'd sell off and then they just retrace and make new highs. And so it's just been something that I've seen continuously. But as always, guys, I appreciate you. I hope that was helpful. If so, please don't forget to hit that like button. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And I have just a bunch of meetings today, so got to get going. Take care. Bye-bye.